Good morning. Thank you so much for being here with us. My name is Dana Droppo. I'm Chief Brand Officer at Billboard, and I'm joined by some really brilliant marketing executives this morning to talk a little bit more in depth about personalization and what personalization means as an applied concept to high-level marketing today. Of course, that includes data and AI in a way that is much more present than it was even 2 years, 3 years ago. And I'm really excited to have these brilliant minds here to help illuminate some of their processes for us and their strategy today. So I'd like to introduce Brian Irving, who is CMO at Lyft. And we have Allison Stransky, who is CMO at Samsung, as well as Michael Lacaraza, who is CMO at US Bank. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
having
So
us.
good to see you.
So it's a relatively broad topic, and I'd love to hear from each of you how data and personalization actually shows up. What does that mean in the context of your roles? So, Michael, if you're willing, I'd love to begin with you at US Bank.
Yeah, sure. So on the retail side of our business, we serve just a little bit over 13 million clients. So it's a pretty big, broad base of diverse needs that people have. One of the principal use cases for us with personalization is we have a customer data platform, and we have fed in all of the different behaviors that our clients have, and the expectation is that we've got so much financial data on folks that we're going to personalize at scale for what their needs are, and it's been pretty remarkable for us because year over year we just continue to see growth and deepening of the relationships, and is able to adjust near real time to different behaviors like debit card usage, credit card usage. So it's pretty intelligent for us.
That sounds like an incredible tool for you. Thank you. We'll dig more into that. Allison, I'd love to hear from you about Samsung.
Thank you. Yes, at Samsung, we're using data and personalization to drive more relevant experiences and more relevant connections. And the two different ways that show up are, one, of course, we also have our data platform that I'm so proud that we've collected as many customers and consumers over the years. So on one level, when I look across our portfolio, we have a lot of different brand or products for a lot of different people in different stages of life. So first of all, we need to make sure we understand, are you in market for a phone or a refrigerator? Those are two totally different things, because you don't want to see an ad for a refrigerator if you're just shopping for the S25. So on some level, that's where we start by having relevant communications and relevant relationships. But what's really exciting is we're moving into the next era of using data and personalization to drive more relevant product experiences. And what I mean by that is all of your devices understand your behavior and are getting much more predictive in your lifestyle so that your devices are adapting to you. And so the types of experiences that this is unlocking is wearables that track your temperature and can help you adjust your thermostat in the middle of the night so that you sleep better, and a refrigerator that recognizes your screen settings to help you meal plan or just shop what's inside better. So that's the next era of data and personalization, and it's getting really, really exciting.
Brian.
Yeah, thanks for having us here, Dana. When you think about Lyft is essentially a real-time personalization engine at any given moment. So, take, probably outside of the Thompson right now, there are 5 or 6 people opening up their Lyft app, trying to get somewhere. What's interesting is each one of those people all have very different needs. So one might be going to the airport, and so they want a little extra comfort. They want to take a certain type of ride. Another person might be with 4 colleagues, so they need extra space. So they're looking for a larger vehicle. They're all going different places. Oh, by the way, if they're paying with a Chase card, they're getting different discounts. If they've connected their DoorDash account, they're getting different services. And we're also then personalizing that to the driver and what their needs are and where they're trying to go and how much they're trying to earn in that given moment. All of that is happening in real time. Now take that and magnify it across the entire U.S. and now Canada. We are a real-time personalization engine for helping people get to where they're going. So it's a fascinating journey. And from a marketing perspective, what we're building on top of that unlocks, I think, a lot more, which I think we'll dig into.
It's so interesting. And as I listen to each of you, there's clearly an enormous amount of data that's being processed on any given day. You all are utilizing a mix of proprietary tools, you're utilizing vendors. It's an incredibly complicated process. And Allison, I'm particularly curious to hear a little bit about how AI powers your capabilities for personalization, especially across the product suite.
Right now, AI has been critical to how we think about our media planning and CRM in particular, because in those two areas, we have a very large customer database where people have different needs at all kinds of times, as I was saying before. So AI is right now coming into play, helping us understand what your life stages, personal interests, and like your very much through the lens of the product that you are interested in next. Where we're going with it, which is really exciting in 2025, is the tools are really catching up to the marketer's aspirations. So we're reaching this point where we are going to be able to achieve the next level of hyper-personalization. And that world that we are moving into right now is adding new interests. And the next thing that I know about you is so that I don't just want to know that you're looking for your next TV. I want to know that you're looking for a TV because you like watching sports. And I want to know that you are the most passionate about the New York Giants so that I can start showing you content about how the Samsung TV is the best Giants game experience, because that's where I want to really feel the connection. And every single person that we're going to talk to is different interests. So we're now exploring the tools that will enable us to get to this point, because that's the next frontier of the data that we have, is just deliver a better relationship.
It's so interesting because the predictive capabilities are really going to help you write strategy. And as much as every single customer, every user is going to be different for each of your businesses, you're also going to be able to see trends. And that means that this suite of products and tools is actually going to help you write strategy. I imagine most of you are already doing that. Michael, could you speak to that in the context of the bank?
Yes. So one of the big use cases for AI for us was the development of our brand campaign that launched last year. So we created, with our agency partner, synthetic audience profiles, ingesting a number of pieces of data about them. And we use it to accelerate the strategic development process, the brief. I mean, typically, if you think about it this way, if you're working with an agency and you have a kind of a greenfield new piece of work that you're doing, that you're going to invest a lot of money in, you might ask a question around, hey, what are the competitive messages out there, and what could be the white space of differentiation? And typically, you have maybe some junior folks in the agency like scouring all of the content that's out there, the messaging. Maybe there's some tools that they use, but it could take weeks, right, to get that back and have humans put that all together. Well, with this platform, in a matter of a couple of days, we had all of that kind of synthesized. Wow. And so the value for us was the ability to accelerate the strategy development, and then also to get AI responses that were kind of human-like to the work as it was in development, and it halved the development timeline for us from usually a little bit over 6 months to 3.5 months.
That's absolutely incredible, and how transformative for your team. I'm curious, Brian, talk to us a little bit about how personalization informs your strategy at this point at Lyft.
Yeah, I mean, we're very fortunate in that. So we had a new CEO come in almost 2 years ago, David Risher, who came in with this mantra of customer obsession drives profitable growth. So as a CEO, it's sort of a marketer's dream to have a CEO have that mantra, like focus on the customer and we'll win. And I joined Lyft just under a year ago. And from that point, thinking like, okay, if customer obsession drives profitable growth, who are we, first of all? Because we have to start with like, what is your identity, and does your identity live up to that? And so we really looked back at our entire brand platform and everything, and shocking, a new CMO looking at the brand strategy, but it needed to live up to this, like, customer obsession drives profitable growth. And when we looked at it through the lens of the DNA of the company and not wanting to let go of that, looking at the DNA of our customers that have been with us over time, the riders and the drivers, we came to a new purpose for the company, not a mission, but a purpose. And our purpose is to serve and connect. And that sets us up then to do personalization, to leverage technology to create better human experiences. And those experiences might be through the lens of insights that we've gathered from segments. So I still think that personalization is not only down to that real-time moment for each individual, but there are segment opportunities. Like, we introduced a product called Women Plus Connect to help women drivers and riders connect with each other. Since we've introduced that, we've given over 52 million Women Plus Connect rides, which is an amazing thing. And we've seen more women drivers come on the platform because of it. So we think of that from a segment perspective of personalization and how product and marketing work together. But then I think a lot of these real-time moments from the fact that, like, we know that you've just arrived in Austin at the airport, we can prompt you to schedule your ride. Then we know that, like, if your DoorDash account is connected, here's the discount code that you're going to get for this ride from the airport. But I think really important factor of this at the end as well is control. So customers definitely expect the fact that we have so much data that we are going to make their lives more seamless, more personalized, better. And from our purpose, we want to serve that expectation. And at the same time, enabling control. Because customers do not want to lose control through this process. And so what are those mechanisms? And we look to see, like, where can we turn mechanisms where it's turning things off, whether it's the ability to customize the ride experience and so forth. But I think that control is a really important factor as we continue down the personalization route.
That's so interesting. The Women Plus Connect product sounds incredible, and how appropriate for Women's History Month and International Women's Day yesterday. And I think that really also speaks to a bit of a divide in what consumers expect through experiences that are personalized for them. There is the expectation that this makes our lives more convenient, more efficient. To Michael's point, obviously that's internal, but consumers want the same thing, right? I also think that there is a real need for emotional connection. And if consumers are allowing and being excited about having their profiles be so detailed, they're also looking to feel something in response to these updates and these products. And, I think particularly banking is a deeply emotional industry in terms of customer decision and experience. I'm curious how that plays into the way that you market.
Well, that's a great question. Multiple ways. One is that we have the privilege of serving people at critical moments in time for them, buying a home, buying a car, forming a household. And so these are all deeply emotional moments. And so the way that we show up from a content perspective, as well as the way we deliver our service engagement, whether it's digital or whether it's in person, really matters. And we have a purpose of powering human potential for everyone. It's kind of similar, I guess, positioning. And so we design our experiences through that lens and our content through that lens, as are we enabling the human potential of our clients.
That's so compelling. Can you tell me and go a little bit more in depth about the content strategy aspect of that?
Yes. So it takes multiple forms, but one similar to what Brian was suggesting, we have a segment lens where we've got insights and needs, and so we'll design content that's sometimes it's offering a product or an offer, but oftentimes it's more guidance related. So this is the kind of tax and bonus season for folks, and so people are having to make decisions about their money, needing some additional help, needing some insight. So we have a kind of an editorial perspective that's fulfilling that for the seasonal need. And then it's customized depending on where people are in the relative complexity of the kind of guidance that they need. So if you have a high net worth client, you're probably not going to be delivering content to them about emergency savings. It's something that's not part of their kind of thinking. But for a lot of clients, that actually might be a need. So you'd be out there sharing that kind of advice.
It's so interesting. That makes a lot of sense. And happy tax season to everybody out there in the audience.
It's so joyous.
We all wait for this time of year.
Everyone's content calendar is definitely set up for tax season.
Tax season, the tentpole. Yeah, Allison, I mean, you are working across so many different touch points in people's lives. When you think about emotional connection, I'm deeply emotionally connected to my refrigerator, for example. Can you tell me a little bit about the other side that's maybe not as efficiency focused?
I think we're deeply connected to all of the electronics types of products that Samsung sells, because when you are in the moment in the kitchen, like the kitchen is the center of the house. Whether or not you're thinking about your appliances, that refrigerator is enabling your meal, that dishwasher is helping you clean up after it. So we take all of it. We think about the emotion with everything, but the way it comes to life when we connect with our consumers is to take it beyond what we say tech specs features to the benefits and the experiences that are beyond. So we could talk of any one of our categories as an example, but I love talking about mobile phones because it wasn't that long ago that it was like, wow, I can make a call out of my house. And we've accelerated very quickly to our phones are doing everything for us, including banking and getting us cars. So there's so much more, but so therefore, yes, when a new phone comes out, you want to know about the camera, you want to know about all of these features, but what's really going to help you make that difference and choose Samsung is the way it makes you feel, the way it's going to unlock new experiences and new benefits. So what we're talking about is taking things beyond the individual product. And the next evolution that you're going to hear, we've really been ramping up, and I hope you feel a significant step change in 25 as well, is how all of the Samsung ecosystem works together, because that's where you're going to start to unlock much more significant benefits. So I alluded to it earlier, but we are obsessed with health, and health is relevant in all of our products in various ways, and health in the kitchen and health for sleep. So we've broken down into several areas like sleep and nutrition and fitness, which are all under the larger health umbrellas, but the benefits that you can achieve in this area are so much better with the way your products work together. So to go back to our emotional refrigerator, we are now saying that we're moving into the next era of smart appliances, because those screens on your refrigerator connect to SmartThings, our connected ecosystem app. And through SmartThings, you can do personalized menu planning. Do you have a vegan or a vegetarian in the household? You can set that up in SmartThings, and through SmartThings Food, help that family member make better choices. Or, if it's your kid, you as the parent can help make the better choice. And so those are the services that we want you to feel, because it's a lot more than the tech or the appliance. We want you to be seen as a consumer or a mom or a dad or anybody in the family, because that's the level of service that we really want you to know we provide.
That's absolutely incredible, and so such a great application of this kind of technology and the interaction between products. I think that, my husband cannot stay up to date with what kind of milk I like in my coffee. The man is just like woefully behind, always 6 weeks behind where I'm at. And I'm sure a lot of us can relate. It's a complicated thing, and preferences are changing as so many different providers in every different facet of marketing are offering new products all the time. And product development is clearly a really key sort of benefit of having this information, this AI-powered platform that you spoke about in the beginning. I'm really curious when you think about it from a travel perspective and from a rides perspective. Talk to me a little bit about sort of this emotional moment. I mean, you brought up safety with the Women Connect product. Are there other aspects of this that really play into the work that you do on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think that Lyft has always prided itself in being like thinking about the human impact of this first. And again, whether it's through riders' journeys of where they're trying to get, or drivers, and the fact that they're earning income, and that income is to provide for themselves, their families, and others. But there's also a bit of an irony about this conversation and sort of macro audience insight, which is especially the audience that we really focus on from a rider perspective, which is young working adults. And frankly, many are feeling stuck. They're feeling stuck in the same algorithms serving up the same content. And so like the things that we're talking about here today, if we don't think about them through a human lens, and we don't think about, I think, what the positive impact of the potential of humanity is within them, there's sort of an implicit then sort of which many people in society feel, and especially this audience, which is this notion of just kind of like feeling stuck in the home, feeling stuck in the algorithms, feeling stuck in the same behaviors, yet this desire for more, but now not knowing how to. And so for us, what we're really trying to, through this lens of to serve and connect, is help provide the means, which is the ride, and the motivation, which is like, a bit of like, we can do this, like, and reminder that the world is out there, and that growth comes from connection, and connection comes from taking that journey outside of your home. And I think we all relate to, especially although, we have a thankfully like packed room in here today. So people that have gotten out of their home to come here and be with other people in person, we know that the data says that that's not generally what's happening, and that people are losing that human connection more and more, and isolation is becoming a critical issue for society today. And so that, and it's like the deepest emotional part of what we're doing, is try to like take that sort of macro insight and not look at the doom and gloom part of it, but look at what can our role be, even if the smallest in like the arc of history, even if Lyft can play a very small role in helping society connect again and feel and understand their potential, then I think that then we'll have done something that was worthy of putting our time into. So
A lofty goal.
a lofty goal, but I think that like change doesn't happen without lofty goals. And so our job then is to take that lofty goal and translate that into the day-to-day of how we operate our business, and back down to the real-time personalization to feel like, can I feel motivated then to maybe not choose the same, order in on Tuesday night, but to like grab the car, go to the restaurant, and, have a meal with my friends in person, have that same meal, but maybe just out, or invite a few people over to enjoy it with me.
Yeah, I'm hearing a real through line, which is empowering your customers to make decisions for themselves and to feel more confident that they're making the right decisions and that they can shift and change behavior sort of as they need to, which is something I think we as individuals all really expect in this day and age with so much information at our fingertips. And so I'm curious to hear a little bit about the practical applications of that to the components of the way that you market. We heard, Michael, a little bit about your content strategy. Are there aspects that play into things like experiential or growth marketing for you that are actually informed by that mission to sort of empower your customer?
Yes, absolutely. And I mentioned at the top of the hour our customer data platform. We deliver that content both in the paid and owned channels, right? So it's everything from email to paid media to our mobile app to our desktop and so forth. And so the experience, and also to our branches and our ATMs, right? So it's in the physical locations for us too. And then when we when we think about our marketing mix and how we're making investment decisions and sponsorships and activations of those and so forth, that through line comes, in terms of our mission and purpose and how we're serving those needs in those forums as well.
That's so interesting. Can you talk a little bit about maybe a specific activation that was really tied to an insight that came from this platform?
That's a good question. I guess one that comes to mind is we were a sponsor of an event in Los Angeles that was a kind of a cultural celebration, and we had a crew there that had a food truck, but we also had the ability to give financial guidance and advice like on the ground for students, because it was a student-led kind of platform. And so it was kind of bringing the banking expertise to where people were at this event, and that we could interact with them digitally, we could interact with them, physically as well, and so it was serving the purpose of empowering their potential.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think for sure, when you think about personalization, you have to also talk about the cultural side, right? And the culture of food trucks in LA, as an Angelino, is super vital. And for students, that's like a real moment of connection for them. So I love to hear about that. Allison, I'm curious sort of similarly about the practical applications of this to your marketing strategy, content strategy, experiential growth potentially. What are some of the ways that this has really pared down into decisions you made in the last year or two?
So we have, back to the breadth of products and the moments and the life stages, we've also identified that you are coming to us for various different interests and reasons. So our own, I've heard a lot of talk about segmentation strategy, and it is something that I think is relevant to marketers literally in any category. But one of our approaches that we brought to segmentation was to recognize your interest level. So are you a home chef? Are you a work enthusiast? Are you a pet parent? And created content and have entire stories based around how we've identified you and your interest area. So that has come through a lot of our marketing campaigns, because it goes back to the same desire to help you feel more connected to our business. And there are elements to it. So there's the creative that recognizes, or the creative that's designed with you as the pet parent or whatever you are in mind. And then the layering that through media tools and the signals that we can follow ensure that you're getting that most relevant story. I always talk about all these examples, and I do like to say, so we've got the home chef, which I am not, the workout enthusiast, which I am not, the pet parent, which I am also not, but don't be totally surprised that I might be the work maven. And when I got served my favorite piece of content, which was the boss girl, I literally called my brand lead. I'm like, it's all working. This was my favorite. The campaign launched yesterday, and I got the one that I felt connected to. So we had a laugh about that moment, and I'll laugh a little less about how I really don't go to the gym ever. But I do love that our consumers do. And I was actually speaking with somebody else earlier this week, and I gave the example, and he was like, I'm all of those things. I'm like, good for you for being multidimensional when I have work. But that's the relationship that I want all of our consumers to feel. So that's how you get it starts with an insight, it leads to the creative, and then the media tools are there to help you pay it off. And we're just going to continue to cut those segments deeper and deeper as we have the capabilities to get better.
So interesting. I'm sure we have a lot of work mavens in the room. Work mavens? Any work mavens in the room?
It's Sunday morning and you're all here. I think you could say that you're a work
Pretty
maven.
much everybody qualifies.
Packed house, exactly. Pet parents also welcome, of course. Okay, so Ryan, we've talked a little bit about your goal is to really inspire people to live differently and to help support their motivation to kind of take the next step and get out into the world. Tell me how that has boiled down either into a specific campaign, platform, activation.
Yeah, so I think probably informed by my time at Apple with the belief of product and marketing should have very little space between them in order to create like magical moments for customers. We started with the product experience and like ensuring that like this really dynamic content and personalized experience comes through in the journey of the experience for both the rider and the driver, which largely starts and ends in the app. And so we spent a lot of time of what would be maybe considered traditional, like product marketing, in-app marketing, as well as our CRM platform, and ensuring the cohesiveness of that and making sure that we're thinking about not just the right offer at the right time to help you get where you're going, which is a really important aspect, but also a reminder of the right message at the right time. And sometimes it might be helping to reinform on Women Plus Connect, which again matches female riders with female drivers, or it might be reinforcing the fact that you're taking this ride with your Chase card, which provided you the free Lyft Pink, our subscription platform. So really thinking about that full journey of the marketing experience for our customers, both inside and outside of the product, and less so on kind of big campaign activations to date. I'll just say watch this space on that part of it, though, for things to come. But it's really been thinking about how do we make the experience of Lyft feel personalized, in control from end to end of the journey so far.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's really helpful. And I think that we've talked so much this morning about tools, automation, how AI informs these strategies. But at the end of the day, each one of you are in these positions because you have had great instincts. We haven't always had these tools as marketers. It's relatively new. And I have to imagine that on your teams, you also have examples of sort of human intervention. Maybe it was yourselves, maybe it was a team member, maybe it was a vendor or partner who came in and sort of said, but wait, the AI is missing something. Michael, can you tell me a little bit about the human side of
Absolutely.
marketing?
So for us at this stage in the world, we ultimately make on the creative content, it's a human decision at the end of the day, and the AI helps provide insights and informs, but it does not decide. And also, being a regulated company, we have legal and risk reviews of our work as well. So there's always a human in the loop in terms of us deciding on what we want to produce, and then it being reviewed so that it's it doesn't put us at any sort of risk. So it's probably unlikely that we're going to be in a place where we turn over the decision making of the machines for probably anything that we do. Deciding to serve a particular piece of content to a segment or to a customer that's data driven, that's okay. But all of the content that was created in service of that has already been kind of evaluated and pre-approved.
That makes a lot of sense. That's really helpful. And lawyers in the room, you heard that? Allison, same question.
Yeah, I was thinking first about, the humans on my team, because that's where a lot of great work starts and has helped shape our Samsung voice. But the other sets of humans that are so critical to us are our creators, because it is critical to have not just our voice and our segments and types of content to reach you relevantly. That's really where the relevant connection happens. And so when you talk about using AI to create insights, but always have the final human make the decision, there's something even more magical about giving the trust in your brand to a partner like a creator and let them make their human decision. And you work with them because there's trust and love and relationship and all of those things. But at the end of the day, they have their own voice, and it's their own voice that is also critical to your brand experience. So that to me is also a really important continue part of the relationship. And we're excited that, back to AI, there are tools that are helping us decide how their voice and their tone and their relationship are the right match for our brand. And then at the end, it will still be the human decision to pick the human that you also want to trust in your relationship.
Makes perfect sense. I mean, at Billboard is the charts company, right? And music is our business. And so much of what we do is informed by being a mirror and showing people what's relevant on charts based on its listener behavior, right? But at the end of the day, we can still be really surprised by artists that pop up that don't necessarily fit the profile of Latin music is exploding or hip hop is still the most dominant form of pop music in the United States. Global music is increasingly showing up on the charts. And then you will get an artist like Flawed Mangoes, who uses AI to make music and has now been on a Billboard cover. And if you don't know Flawed Mangoes, check it out. He's brilliant. But creators are often the drivers of sort of those trends. So we see something very, very similar in music. I mean, you've talked a lot about the human connection here, Brian. I guess for you, I'm curious to hear, as a marketer yourself, how has the way that you think about personalization in the context of your role changed in the last few years?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up kind of like my early days were informed by, I was in CRM. I mean, I was building CRM platforms, both on the agency side and then on client side. So I kind of like grew up in this world of, longing for personalization. And Allison, to your point, it's like our desires of marketers have always been greater than necessarily the tools that we could either, that made sense economically to afford or were even possible. So I guess personally, I've kind of always had that in me, and then have had the fortunate experience of working at some absolutely incredible brands and being able to blend these two worlds together. So bring in the sort of the brand experience aspect of it with that sort of CRM and data personalization driven experience. And to the question that you asked to both of them, when I was at Meta, I remember distinctly being in this conversation. Meta is obviously very data-driven organization, very analytically driven, and the head of data science for this group had presented some insights, and a woman on my team had said, she's like, I get this, I understand what you're presenting, and yet it feels off. And his response was, well, how many years have you been doing this of marketing? And she was like, 20 years. And he was like, experience is data. Your data is telling us something else that we need to consider here. And, and I think that the entire room was sort of like, because the data scientist saying something like that the human data was actually as, if not more valuable than the quantitative data that had been presented. And it stuck with me. And I think that it's why we continuously have to always, seek the data to help us inform insights, especially with, the complex dimensions of the humans that we try to serve. But you have to bring in your sort of learned and human experience and think of that as data as well to help inform judgment.
That's really, really compelling. And I think something that probably a lot of us in this room can relate to, that experience is data. I mean, I'm curious for each of you. Allison, tell me a little bit about you as a marketer. How have some of these tools changed the way that you think about your role in the last few years?
So I'll also take a step back to my last role. I was at Google working specifically on studying YouTube ads to find what made for the most effective creative. And that was, for me, stepping into that role and that team was a completely new way to think about data. We were doing meta-analyses with a minimum of 2,000 pieces of creative in each study in order to make recommendations that were data-backed at scale. And really, we could say unequivocally there's always creative risk and creative things that we should try and push the boundaries. But we could say this is what works on YouTube because we looked at this large data set in all of these ways. And that was a really valuable experience that personally very fun to spend all of that time watching ads in we always said you had the machine as well as the humans, because somebody had to watch them on top to pick up on the things that the machines could not pick up on. Machines could tell you where the brand showed up. Machines could not tell you if it was funny or not. So you still had to add that layer, but that was a way of looking at one piece of the entire marketing pie. So your online video was what we were looking at doing, and even for each of your platforms, your video can be so different. So for all of that time, I did this much of, a total marketer's marketing mix. And now, though, I've brought that thinking about how you're using data to find insights and find opportunities to everything within my remit. So one of the things that I actually love and feel very fortunate to have on my team is our big data team at Samsung. So big data sits within corporate marketing, and we have it there because we know that data is our gift and responsibility as marketers to understand you and treat you the way that you want to be treated. And I've appreciated that the journey from Google has helped me understand what we have and what we do very differently. I would love to hear more about your CRM foundational experience, because it's something that I've actually come into much later in my career, because we talked about what CRM was prior to Google. I was at L'Oreal and had a very different experience in CRM in beauty in the early days of CRM to where we are now. That's been a very accelerated, super exciting, very fun part of the marketing mix. And so all of that to say, picked up on experiences as data and marketing tools have gotten better, that you learn it over here, but then you can apply it to this part over here, and it just makes the whole marketing mix and pie that much more fun.
Yeah, and it speaks to your point, Brian. The cumulative nature of it is what makes your insights so powerful. I mean, Michael, you've been in this business a long time. Tell me a little bit about how your own perception of personalization has changed.
A couple of ways. The first is that the technology has enabled us to get to really deep insights a lot faster. Massive data sets that otherwise would have taken so much more time to process and to understand. The second piece of it is the quality of what I've learned along this journey is how important the quality of the data that you choose to use to study is really important. And there can be a lot of noise in what you have, and you have to do a tremendous amount of work to understand which are the signals that actually matter. And some of that you can derive quantitatively, but some of it you just have to understand at a human level what the journey is and how people make decisions, just like you would, 20 years ago in marketing. I mean, how do people make decisions? What's important to them? What segment, what pops from them from a segment point of view? Like those behavioral choices really matter. And so then finding the data proxies that enable you to filter that become even more important.
That makes a lot of sense. Lead from the gut, but now you can lead from the gut a lot faster. Okay, nice. We have about 15 minutes left. If everyone's comfortable and does anybody have anything else they want to add? Anything they haven't spoken about yet? Okay.
That's good.
Okay, good. We want to take some audience questions. And if you have a question for our wonderful panelists up here, I'd encourage you to please step up to the microphone in the middle of the room here. And we're going to be listening for your questions from the audience. Go ahead.
Okay. Hi, good morning. My name is Gabby. I'm a founder based in New York. My question is, if you are working with an org that's not quite at the size of a budget of a corporate entity, but you want to make an investment in a CRM or some type of tech that will really allow you to foster that cultural connection, what would you suggest, or where would you suggest starting?
I can take this one. Or at least start it. I would say start with be scrappy. It sounds sort of maybe cliche, but I wouldn't get too caught up in the bigness. There are so many amazing CRM platforms that are out there today that you can literally just sign into yourself, self sign on, and get going and start experimenting in order to kind of prove out your hypotheses. And so I would say, find that if you don't already have them, that sort of scrappy marketer who's really outcomes based and less focused on, a specific tool or wanting to do a specific campaign, and just encourage them to, be obsessed about the customer. What data do you have? And then experiment and grow from there.
I would say to add to that, start with the objective as well that you are trying to achieve, because I think that could also help you determine what resources first, because you need to build the database to make the effort worthwhile to put into CRM. And I think if you start with your objective, it'll kind of also clarify for you where you want to go from there.
Michael, anything to add?
It's good.
Great. Thanks so much. Next question.
Hi, I'm Nicole. I work at Lush Cosmetics. You spoke about data and wearable tech, and with advancement of technology where it will adjust the temperature to help you sleep, what happens if the technology hits the point where it's able to read your passive thoughts? And with that, where does hyper-personalization bridge between actual digital ethics, and where do you see your role playing in that?
I'll take that one because I'm assuming since I was talking about the temperature changes. But temperature, you can set your settings in Lyft. So can also. So it is, it's a great question because there's a fine line, and it's something that we are very conscious of. The way we're looking at what AI is to us at Samsung is we like to say it is personalized, it's predictive, and it's private, because your data is your data. And if I have it, it's because you've, one, opted into what your settings are and what you want me to be able to do. And two, I will respect that because it's really important to me that I'm keeping your trust. So for the particular example of the temperature and everything else, it'll never be just completely automatic that you can get to the point. So the way that works is you actually have to connect your wearables in SmartThings with your thermostat, and you have built that on your own. So I will take that, just using that one as an example, as a signal that that is something that you want, and we will always enable you to turn things off and to be able to change your settings. You can right now, to get back to CRM, if you want, I will email you, but I will not text you, or I will do all of it together. And it will always remain really important to us, back to the point about if you're trusting me with your data, I will use it responsibly and relevantly, which is really what we consider as that privacy pillar, because I'm also a person who wants all of the brands and companies that use my data to use it responsibly. So I will bring that same respect to you as a consumer.
Yeah, I would just add that it's really important for brands in building their trust and deserving a place in the world to be transparent about how their customers' data are being used. And to the extent that it makes sense, enabling controls, like as Alice and Brian mentioned. I've personally experienced a number of different sort of technologies where I felt that the ask and the permission for my data was not reciprocated in terms of the value that they were going to be delivering to me, that it was really one-sided, and then I opted out and said, I'm not doing this, I'm not comfortable with this. So you have to kind of figure out where that line is for your company and your brand. And from my perspective, there's got to be a value exchange, and you have to be transparent and clear about what that usage is.
Very clear. Brian, anything to add?
What they said.
Great. Thank you so much.
It's always good to go last, right?
Next question.
Hi, thank you for today. My name is Mahi Kulkarni. I'm a student at DU. I guess my question is that we've talked a lot about AI, and I think we did touch on connection a little bit. How important do you still think is being human in terms of personalization? Because I don't want to go to a website and talk to a chatbot. I mean, that's really annoying. So I guess I'm open to that. So, like, what are your thoughts on being human in personalization still?
Sure, I'll take that one first. First of all, I love when somebody starts by saying, I am a student, because I am so impressed that you have found opportunities like this to be here today. So, one, amazing for you. And two, that was a great question. Human will always win. And so we will find new ways to layer human and humanity into all of it. But what the other thing at the end of your question that sparked for me is we're finding that people as individuals have different interests and want to be interacted in a different way. So to your point about not wanting to chat with a chatbot, we do have chatbots available because a lot of people prefer that first. Because if it is an easy troubleshoot, maybe that's a faster way to get it done. However, our responsibility is to make sure that it's a good chatbot experience, because you should get an answer in the fastest way possible because you are a human. And if I'm having a chatbot interact with you, that chatbot should be designed to respect you and your needs as a human as well. So the long version of the answer is that humanity will always win, but you're bringing really great perspective in what you're thinking about.
Just one thing I would add on that point, and I'm with you. Those things drive me crazy. And pick one of these four things that's your problem. Well, none of them are my problem. And you just have to. It's just so frustrating. At the same time, I'm sure everybody in this room has experimented with ChatGPT and Claude and all the different large language models. They're evolving quickly to be pretty reactive and conversational, human-like. In a sense. So I can definitely see a point in time where we will be able to get the kind of service and support and interaction that we need that could be AI driven for those kind of circumstances.
Just real quick, I'll add one. I totally agree, which is like, it's not the tool itself that is the problem. It's like whether it is designed in recognition that a human is using it or not, and not just the fact that like, well, we're going to gain 3 points of efficiency from this, so we're going to do it. Like, it's going to ruin it for everyone, right? So like, please don't do that. And then also just thank you for introducing yourself as a student, because you just reminded me that I am a student here as well, and that it is like a continuous journey of learning, because there are no definitive answers in this world. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next question.
Hi, great panel. Michael, I'm going to pick on you for a second, but this is open to the whole panel. In an industry where financial products can feel commoditized, how does U.S. Bank craft experiences that truly differentiate the brand? Specifically, how do you tailor your approach when engaging prospects who may not feel a connection to the brand versus deepening relationships with existing customers?
It's a great question. We do live in a category where when you're highly regulated, the foundational elements of the products are pretty similar across brands. There's very little that differentiates a checking account in one bank or another. I mean, you might have a different fee structure or, behaviors that you have to do to avoid fees, those kinds of things. For us, it's a combination of the digital experiences that we provide around them, the advice that we give, as well as the human interactions. And one of the pivots that we made in our new brand campaign that launched last year and continues on is to demonstrate, and this is both for our existing clients as well as prospects, what is it like to do business with us, and what makes it special, and what makes it worth it. And so we initially featured a couple of items. Imagine like you have a customer who is stuck on a website or stuck in a mobile app, and they might need to call a call center, right? And for a typical brand, you call them up, and then their customer's having to describe what they're experiencing, and I think particularly if you have someone that's not as technologically savvy, that could be a really frustrating experience. Well, we have this technology called co-browse, where if you are stuck and you're in our app and you press the button and you get to a live banker, they can actually see what's going on in your app and guide you through the process real time, simultaneously. And it's just a much more seamless experience. So we're using that as part of our storytelling because it's a differentiating part of the experience. The product itself is not that different, but the experience that we create around it is really different.
Great. Thank you. Anybody else?
Nailed it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Gabby. I work in corporate strategy. My question is mainly for Brian. At Lyft, how do you all think about your marketing strategy as you're serving both riders and drivers? Is there one that you think of as your primary client? And kind of how does that look?
Yeah, it's a great question. Thank you for that, Gabby. We think about both simultaneously because we have to serve both, and they are so completely different in what their needs are. And so, while yes, trying to create a cohesive creative platform is really great, the marketing strategies are just so completely different. And almost even breaking them down by riders and drivers doesn't even quite get us there from our marketing strategy, because some drivers are professional drivers that do 40, 50 hours a week, and that is their primary income. Some drivers are doing as transition from maybe they were laid off, or maybe they moved city and before they got their next job, they're driving. Others are some are doing it because they just want 10 hours of connection with other humans for the week, and it's not even about the money, and they're doing it. So we actually, our marketing strategy is about being really customized and being really personalized to each of those audiences, and not believing that we can assume that just because someone is taking a ride or just because someone is driving, that their needs are the same. And it does come back to this is why our purpose is so important to us, is that we have to serve each one of those audiences, and then how do we connect with them in a real way where we can build trust with drivers that we're doing the right things to help them earn money, and also help connect riders to the world at large.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks. We've got time for one or two more questions.
Sounds good. Great panel, everybody. Mark from Brandat Media. So it's kind of a two-part question. One is the data that you guys have put together, your first-party data to reach audiences and attach brands to best content. Brilliant. Now that you know all of that, two parts is this. We know more next-gen audiences and future audiences are turning off advertising. They have ways. I have a son who's 15, and he's like, I work in advertising. He's like, Dad, I don't even want to look at your ads. And I'm like, what do you think feeds you, right? So my question is, more and more are getting more sophisticated in turning off these ads, and you guys are getting more and more brilliant at reaching them. Are you, now that you have all this data and you know what your consumers or viewers like, are you also looking at creating your own original IP or partnering with people to create that IP to make it even more cohesive and bringing more value to those audiences and consumers?
I can go first if you want. So for Lyft, one of the things, so we've built this new group called Lyft Media that's based really on this, which is how do we provide really hyper-personalized experiences that other marketers can take advantage of in a way where the customer finds that there's high value exchange. Because I think this is the point that we're all trying to make here is you can make experiences that are very one-dimensional, and like your kid, they're going to be no interest in that. It's so clearly self-serving for this company. But I'll give an example of this for us, which is, and I was speaking with another friend who's here this weekend, which is as a appreciation for customers taking an action, wanting to give them a free ride home from. So in this case, it was going to a local sports event that they are the primary sponsor of the stadium, and that they want to give the customers who showed up for Customer Appreciation Day a free lift home afterwards. It's well, we have sponsored rides. Mm-hmm. So brands can come in and say hey, we're going to sponsor this ride either to or from. And I think that those are the experiences, and it's brought to you by this brand, that we think that are sort of like the future generation of how brands can connect, because it needs to be seamless. It needs to be like a great value exchange. But I think it's going to feel more like an experience than it is an ad.
Yeah.
To add to that question, we also, short version, no, we're not looking at our own IP. We're still going to stay in the product and now experience off of those product businesses, but we are trying to reach. There are so many ways to connect with people outside of serving ads. And one of the things that we do at Samsung that I'm really proud of is our Solve for Tomorrow program. It is our philanthropy, and it is a STEM-based competition where middle school and high school students use STEM to solve a problem in their community. And that's all there is to it. And the work that these kids have brought back year on year is just getting beyond incredible because they're so smart. But it's initiatives like that that are really important to our portfolio too, because I'm trying to build connection for the future, and those high schoolers like your son are having a lot of different reactions with brands or feelings about brands, and so we want to reach them early on, authentically, relevantly, and in a meaningful way so that they want to grow with us too.
Fantastic. Both great examples. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. And that's really all the time that we have for today. So thanks everybody in the audience for joining us. Michael, Allison, Brian, thank you so much for your insights this morning. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Dana, for moderating.